This one time, someone had written, they'd been showered with gifts. And the English teacher came and was like, there is absolutely no way that makes sense. You cannot shower someone with a fridge and a bed. You're going to kill them.
Welcome to Hadithi, the Nostalgia Podcast. We take you on a trip down memory lane to your primary and secondary school days through captivating compositions and insha's read to you by your favorite personalities. I have amazing guests today, Abubakar Numan and Ngartia. They are comedians, writers, actors, all-round talented creatives who founded, among many things, Too Early for Birds, which is one of the most, if not the most, successful theatre show in the history of the country, with a crew and cast of over 20 people. The show and its title were inspired by the work of historian and blogger Owa, and the show has been called funny and reflective by audiences all around, myself included, by hundreds of people, including families and some of the most heroic Kenyans depicted in their stories. Abu and Ngartia, the dynamic duo, karibuni sana.
Thank you.
It's very nice to have you guys. And the fact that you're creatives, you're writers, you're comedians, you're actors. I know it didn't start today. So I'm trying to go back to your high school days because we're about to get into a composition. But did you ever find yourself getting a bit too creative for school? Like, were your teachers ever like, maybe you should bring it close to home, make it a little bit more realistic?
Oh, but of course. Hey, I was very keen to put the wahenga thing in every single thing I write. Everything. And make sure that I use all the different diverse wahenga things that they did back in the days, just to make a point, just to put a point across. But yeah, I overperformed in my inshas and compositions up until KCSE, where I could not write because I was nervous.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Was that your introduction to stage fright? But I don't know what the version of exam like stage fright is, but was that your first introduction to kuogopa hadiwezi fanya kitu?
I think so, because every other insha leading up to that point was just me expressing the ideas and thoughts I have in my mind without thinking that someone is going to mark them and give them points. But KCC came through and then, my God, I have to pull my memory and remember all the things that I read in page 64 of Maziwa Waziri wa Maradhi and all that. So that got me a bit nervous, and I don't think I performed well in that. However, I wrote a good story either way.
Either way, the reader got entertained.
Exactly.
So it's their job. But I always feel like it's nice if you wrote a good story and you make the teacher laugh or whatever. It's like, I know it's your job, but if I can entertain you, I don't know if the experience was the same for you, Ngartia, when it came to your writing.
Mine was weird because I think I was always reading way, way, way off what everyone else was doing. So the books that were taken from me are probably enough to build a library in the schools I went to. And as a result, I was writing things that were off the mark while using all the proverbs and misamiati and expressions and all these things we were supposed. I woke up and ran straight into the kingdom of frogs.
What is the kingdom of frogs? Thank you for reminding me that one. Is it because do frogs jump out of loos? I don't understand.
Of showers, I think.
Of showers?
I don't know. It's the water kingdom, I think.
Helter Skelter.
Helter Skelter. Because I've not always been very good with authority, I remember arguing with my teachers. And this one time, someone had written, they'd been showered with gifts. And the English teacher came and was like, there is absolutely no way that makes sense. You cannot shower someone with a fridge and a bed. You're going to kill them. And you're like, that's not what... So
it's not literal.
Yes. We had a really, really long argument that ended up with us being told we won't pass the exam. The teacher made a bet. And so once after KCSE in London, go like, yeah, you said if I got anything close to an A, I should get 1,000 shillings. I'm here. But it's
you
always,
pulled up with receipts.
Yes. Yes, but I was always getting weird marks in composition because I was writing weird stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're right, it is difficult to quantify. But I do remember they would say like 10 marks for grammar or something. I don't know. There was some marks for creativity. There was some for story flow. But yeah, there was a lot of it that was hard to quantify.
In 844.
I've never gotten that.
In 844, yes. You didn't get that?
I've never gotten the point of marking a composition or an insha. Just because, like, how can you judge creativity? What's creativity between, like, how can you rate creativity from 1 to 40?
I don't think you can rate it on a scale, but you can know what's good and what's not. So I can know Too Early for Birds is good because I enjoy watching it. But if I wrote a play, people would just fall asleep in that. I'd be like, okay, so maybe this writing thing is not for me.
That's what you think, because when we started, we were told Too Early for Birds is not theatre. But when you think about it, for us, especially in primary school, the Kiswahili made sense because people were so serious about, we would be brought Kiswahili experts from outside and they would be like, this is how, and the people who mark the inshas, they would come and explain all that. But no one ever showed up for compositions.
This is interesting because there was no English expert.
Yeah, no one.
Sorry, but you mentioned Too Early for Birds, and I want to know the inspiration behind it.
J.M. Kaluki. Now he was going around the country giving fiery speeches about how Kenya had turned into a country of 10 millionaires and 10 million beggars. He was pushing for a political approach. Okinyonga had different ideas. He was pushing for a different approach. He was going to rob the banks and distribute the money to the poor.
The initial feeling was, why don't I know this? Why is this history not the one I read in school? What was happening? Was that part of the reason why you guys decided, you know what, we need to bring these things to life?
I mostly wanted to quit my job, but that's also...
That's a valid reason.
It did come from that feeling. The feeling you just explained for me is the reason we still do it. It's that constant feeling of, why do I not know this about myself and about my people and all that? And the blog was a starting place. Then you jump off the blog and you find a thread on Twitter. Either if you're following History KE or KE Researcher or all these people who post really interesting stuff about Kenyan history, you're always constantly wondering, why, Mbona, is this the first time? Or you're just reading on something totally and you're like, I should know this.
That's that feeling, exactly. I should know this.
Yes.
And just to give the reader some context, instead, in case they haven't been to a Too Early for Birds show, it's an amazing, bringing history to life theater show, but it's also bringing history that you don't know to life. And I don't know what's the strangest realization that you guys have had when you read something and you're like, excuse me, what? And you're like, okay, we have to put this on the stage.
Oh, that's for every story. You find out there were forts in Western Kenya the size of the Game of Thrones type of wall of ice type of forts. Pre Too Early for Birds, I was talking my reference for Kenya was honestly 2002 election, because that's
that's as far as your history went.
Exactly. and prior to that was the independence, but in the middle of it, all of it was occupied by world wars and stories about things that happened to Kenya but from abroad. And thankfully, we landed onto this curiosity that is retelling Kenyan history in a funky, cool way.
In a very funky, cool way. The research must be really hard. I want to know how you guys do it, because like I said, it's not stuff we read in books. A lot of it, oral history can be very tricky. So how do you do your research?
I'd like to start by sending a shout out to our head of research, Idil Ahmed, who does a spectacular job, because with every single project, things are different. If you're working with Mboya, you have the family and you have material you're getting from the family, but then you also have all this material that exists in the public space and the government propaganda and all that stuff. But if you're working with the Lumboka and the Chetambe forts from Bungoma and Webuye, they don't, if you go where they are right now, there's no evidence that those forts existed there, right? And then sometimes, if you're Abu in the first edition, you're telling stories of Nyayo House, stories that people still do not want to be told, because the people who would kill people in Nyayo House are still walking the streets. So for every single one of those stories, the process is different. So sometimes we're in archives with our old good friend Peterson, who helps us dig through.
Is he the curator there?
He's not the curator, but he's one of the people who keep that space
alive. Yeah, shout out Peterson. Yeah,
in existence with really, really terrible government funding. Sometimes we're researching for the crime edition, and we're busy being told by the police
document
that criminal documents in this country get destroyed after 20 years.
Is that a fact?
That's a fact.
Why? Okay.
Apparently crime expires in this country.
Because there's some things that don't have a statute of limitations. So if the crime is still a crime 20 years later, how can you destroy the file? Anyway,
Yeah, so so every single sometimes we're interviewing actual living. Interviewing Field Marshal Muthoni is one of the most transcendent experience I've ever seen. And being there and talking to someone who was in the forest fighting for the freedom of this country, you can't explain that.
I want to go back to your roots a bit. Both of you did 844, right? Where did you guys go to high school? And in general, unfortunately, let's say it's like a pain. Can't be something that you say because I did 844. But where did you go to high school? When did you clear? And in general, if you had to rate your high school experience.
I first went into a Catholic primary school called Our Lady of Visitation Boarding Primary School, Timao, Meru Diocese. You had to write the whole thing. Then I went to high school in Nkobo High School, which is in a town called Nkobo. When I went into Form 1, that was 2007. There were no rules in that school.
Just vibes, no rules, just vibes.
The bell would ring in the evening, guys would go for games, others would change into home clothes, walk out of the fence. We had people running whole Ndau businesses. We had people who had wives living in I swear.
Oh my God. Married in high school with your wife living in school.
Not in school. Married is a very strong word. But people had baby mamas living across the fence. If you went to Kobo High School and I'm lying, please call me out. We went through 3 different school principals. The first one, the one I met in 2007, he was like, this is the highest this school has ever scored. I'm out, like Drogba. When I'm still at the top, he quit. We went for a term without a principal. Then they brought another dude called Minor who was like, I'm from the army. I'm going to run this like a military camp. We beat him up until he quit.
I love that in Kenya that can be said so casually. We beat up our principal.
I'm like, that was crazy. That was crazy. In Form 3, they brought another one who beat us up until we quit. Actually, that wasn't beating us. That man, his name was Nicholas Nyaga, should never be trusted with anyone's children. Ended up beating the teachers as well.
Again, what?
Yeah, so by the time I was in Form 4, we'd gone through a whole experience. High school introduced me to so many things, to drugs, to strikes, to homophobia. I didn't even know that was a thing until I went into high school. To Islam. I converted to Islam in high school. I did everything in school, in high school, apart from study. To theater and music. We started Stories in high school, which is now the company that runs Too Early for Birds. It was a lot.
We have a really dope composition, yeah? The title is My Most Memorable Day. Yeah, it's a story of someone who thought they were having an ordinary day, but it didn't go quite as planned. So I'm really eager to see what, for a young person, my most memorable day is, because from your high school experiences, I think they're a bit hard to live up to.
As we had memorable days every day.
Every day was a memorable day. Alrighty, Abu, please introduce us to our most memorable day. I hope it'll be memorable.
My pleasure. Here we go. My most memorable day. The morning chill tore my skin. Sporadic showers were falling from the sky. I shivered uncontrollably from cold as I picked my way to the bus. Stop. The heavy jacket I had just put on was like a nylon shirt, as it did little to offer me the warmth I needed. Yo, this is nice.
It's nice writing, yes?
Yeah. I feared I was late for the morning lesson at school already. The thought that I could be late on arrival again, only to face the wrath of my mathematics teacher sent a cold chill down my spine. That is not lying at all. I did not want to be in the teacher's black book.
Do you find, the thing of, I didn't want to be in the mathematics teacher's black book. Why is it that it's almost universally, it's the math teachers that were always watiaji?
Yo, why? Math and
or the chem agency guy, apparently.
Exactly. Oh my God. Throwing shade. Actually, it's the science teachers. Oh my God. Chemistry teachers especially.
What was the issue?
They slapped harder than everyone else.
What, the subject or the teacher?
I think both.
They got the elements down to...
and the teacher, both of them slapped a bit too hard. Okay, Ngartia, do you want to take over?
Only the previous day, I had overslept and reached school 1.5 hours late, to the disgust of the teacher. Do not ask me what Mr. Olenti Mama did to me. I only have a dark spot on my skin as a constant reminder. I wish I had the guts to tell him that corporal punishment had been banned in schools. Maybe he did not know. I found myself alone at the bus stop. Only the moon glittered brightly to reassure me. I wonder why, at this time, I could be the only one there. Even workers who commuted early appeared to have overslept. It was none of my concern, though.
In fact, it was not even my concern that I had left my parents still snoring in their bedrooms. I was waiting to hear them talk about how they reached their places of work late. I would laugh until my ribs hurt. As for now, all that I was looking forward to was to arrive at school well ahead of the teacher. Funny enough, there were no vehicles to board either. Had they vanished in thin air? I felt frustrated. Perhaps the drivers and their conductors had put down their tools again. Over the past few weeks, there had been frequent strikes by matatu operators. Now, they were apparently at it again.
I'll just take one quick guess on what you think is happening, because there's no maths for some reason, and he seems to be pretty early in the morning. I'll just take a quick guess, and then at the end of the composition, we can all find out if we can figure out what's happening.
What's your guess?
Mike, I can't, because I already know, so I can't guess. Yes.
Oh, you read it before? Oh,
allegedly.
This is so
allegedly.
unfair.
I feel like we've been set up.
Yeah.
Small, just a bit.
Hey, matatu strike every day. Come on. That's my guess. Like, there was a matatu strike. There's something happened.
My guesses are always so dramatic, man. I think there was an alien invasion and there's no one else left.
I like that one. Okay, I'm hoping it's that one for your sake, that it's an alien invasion. Ngartia, we can continue and see if you're right, I guess.
I could not remain there standing like a statue. The alternative left was for me to begin jogging to school. That's a very Kenyan option, apparently, according to the world.
Keep jogging.
Keep jogging. It was a long distance away, but I ran with determination. The morning was serene and quiet. I could not see any of my classmates. Maybe they were at school already. I sped downhill at supersonic speed. I could feel my chest burning vigorously. It did me a lot of good because I could feel warmer in the terrible weather. The drone of a car engine gave me a glimmer of hope. At least now I knew I wasn't alone in the world. I waved for the driver to give me a lift, but he was not a good Samaritan of the Bible. He sped past me like dust, almost splashing dirty water on me.
I jogged on, silently cursing at the mean driver. No sooner had I reached the school than I thought the world had gone crazy. Nobody was within the vicinity. The school gate was still closed. Where was everybody? I was tempted to think it was a weekend. I was sure it was Thursday. Before I could lose my mind, I moved towards the gate and gently rapped onto it. I breathed in deeply as I waited patiently. The tired voice of a gatekeeper asked from within, "Who are you?" I heaved a sigh of relief. When he learnt it was a pupil knocking, he opened. I smiled at him, but he did not reciprocate.
Instead of greeting me, he stared at me as if I was a ghost. He studied me from head to toe. I felt irritated.
"What are you doing here at this time?"
He asked with surprise. Did he not know that class 8 pupils reported at school early? He took his watch and peered at it. I nearly collapsed with shock. It was not 6:30. It was 5 minutes past midnight.
I mean, you did not see it coming. You did not see it coming.
No!
It's funny how they went with the simple route, but the surprising route.
It's amazing!
He was so disappointed at the matatu operators not being there.
Ameshaanza kutata. You know how Kenyans tata? Yeah. Matatu. I can imagine.
No good Samaritan, hata siwa Biblia.
I have so many questions, but I'll hold them till the end because there's somewhere the math isn't mathing for me. The 2 + 2 is not 4 somewhere, but I'll hold the questions until the end.
I believe him though, or her, because I had a roommate in high school, Form 2, who used to sleepwalk. And he'd open his eyes wide and walk to the mosque and back.
No.
Yes. He'd go outside, wait for a matatu or any car that passes by, and then come back. For no reason at all, tuck himself in and then sleep.
Can you imagine people meeting you the next day and they're like, it was nice seeing you last night? And you're like,
What do you mean last night?
last night. I don't know, nangalia miguu zimejaa uchafu
Guy.
or something. That would be so creepy.
Or checking your M-Pesa transcripts. No.
Hey,
Has
you
anyone
are a
ever
fun
turned
dude at the
up
party.
while-
Thanks.
You can turn up while sleepwalking. That I would love to see. Last paragraph. Let's finish it up, Abu.
Slowly, I retrieved a handkerchief from my pocket and wiped the sweat that had drenched my body. I had thought I would be the one laughing at my parents. How mistaken. I was the one they would reprimand for putting my life in danger. I shook my head pensively. What a day of total madness.
First of all, it's only 5 minutes past midnight. So
Yeah, it's not a day. What?
not a day.
Most of this happened the previous day. The guy who passed him on the road was just trying to get home before midnight. Before he was just.
kulikuwa na curfew. I don't know.
Alikuwa analala baada akiandika hii stuff.
Do you think he was sleepwalking? Because, yeah, that's what I'm saying. The math is not mathing for me. There's a few plot holes. I don't know if you guys are seeing them.
What are the plot holes?
If you wake up, checking your clock your watch is the first thing you do. Or if you set an alarm or something. So how did he or she wake up? How did they wake up?
You're speaking from a point of privilege. Some people are woken by the anxiety of school, by the fear of the math teacher. That's what wakes you
Carrying
up.
the textbooks.
Okay.
This child has trauma. What's that thing? It's like they didn't even want to talk about the thing the teacher did to them last time.
That's true.
Yeah.
I don't even want to talk about it.
Dude,
That's a trauma statement. It's true.
Did you go to a boarding school?
Yes, I did.
Did you have morning preps?
Yes.
Did you ever wake up after everyone has gone for preps?
All the time. All the time. Regularly.
Do you know that panic for right before you know what the hell is going on?
Yes. I remember that panic. That's so true. But I think I got used to doing it so much that after doing it a few times, I didn't even wake up with a panic anymore. As long as a class hasn't begun, that would be a different level of panic. As long as there's no teacher in class, I'd be like, okay.
Yes, but how you'd know people have gone is because there was no one else.
Yeah, you're the only one in the dome.
Yeah, it's not really the ambience unless the sun was out.
It's like, wait,
right?
Yeah, it's true.
So imagine you're coming from home. You're not coming from a dormitory. You're alone. When you wake up, you're like, ule mwalimu wa mao mwenye atakanga kuniua. At no point have they actually indicated what the agenda is. That's amazing.
That's good, yeah.
That's amazing.
I think from all the ones that we've read so far, no one ever indicates what. You just kind of have to do a guessing game, which is what we'll do. What do you think? Is it a guy or a girl?
Only dudes are these thoughtless.
Exactly. Like you walk to school at midnight. That's definitely a guy.
That's definitely a guy.
That's us.
Yep.
Because this guy or girl, but let's go with guy, had to go back home at some point. Yeah, after this nice conversation with the watchy, paint me a picture of what you think happens when he gets home. At, I don't know, let's call it 1 a.m. Because there's still no mathries.
Bold of you to assume he gets home.
If it were me,
In this country. Yeah, I would go back. To who?
Like, I live here now.
Like, you can just turn it into a nice chill evening, wait for the sunrise. Yeah.
You just be born with a watchy.
I feel like this is such a you know how life plays games with you. If they did get back home, yeah, they go back home, they fall back asleep because clearly they're not got enough sleep, and then they end up oversleeping again. I feel like that's what would happen realistically.
And then the loop goes back to the
Yes.
starting point all over again.
That's where you hope.
Stuck in a loop.
That's where you hope this watchy is a real OG. Just to show up and be like, this kid was here at midnight, guys.
He was here at 5 minutes past midnight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just because
He
you're
was-
assuming that the shift doesn't end at 6 and he's left.
Oh, true. Their shifts usually do end at
Yeah.
6. You see, there's no recourse for this kid. Like, there's no winning. Is there anything specifically from school that you feel you carried on into your adult life?
Yes. I have a recurring nightmare where I'm halfway through a math exam. Everyone is busy and have absolutely no clue what's going on. Because that was my school life. And it's always so vivid. It's always so vivid.
That is scary.
And I wake up and I have bigger problems now, but somehow they don't scare me the way that math paper scares me.
I hear so many people with horror stories. I mean, not horror stories, bad dreams about their high school experiences and their recurring nightmares. Like, what's happening? Because I can imagine in that dream of yours, it's the situation of like, you leave the exam room with people and you're like, you guys, I got 69. What did you get? England. It's like we're not even on the same page. We're not even on the same page. Oh man, but yeah.
When people would ask for a graph paper and you have no idea
Why they need a graph paper? Thank you guys so much for bringing this story to life. It's been a memorable day for me.
Thank you.
I think I had a lot of fun, and I love your insights into your high school life. Please do not forget to follow us on social media. We are at Hadithi Pod on everything. And of course, wherever you find podcasts, you will find us. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, SoundCloud, Tukokote. And thank you once again for listening to us. Leave us your reviews, your comments. Tell us what you think and what you'd like to hear more of. And we'll meet you in the next episode. This podcast is produced by Yasmin Hassan, recorded and mixed by Joshua Mondi, music by Joshua Mondi, and additional music by Stephen McLeod. Special thanks to Stephen Amadi of Fancy Compositions and Inches.